And then there's a little bit of lithium in there, but it's kind of like it's like the salt on the salad.
So would you agree that lithium is just the salt on the salad?
Hey, it's Ivan from the EV Stock Channel here, and today we're going to play Mythbusters to clear up some confusion about lithium. Is it true that lithium is such a minuscule part that it's really just the salt on the salad? Is lithium so abundant? And finally, is lithium about to be phased out? I'm going to put these three questions to lithium expert Howard Klein from RK Equity. And remember, none of this is financial advice, it's just our opinions. So let's get into it.
Okay, so Howard, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back, Ivan.
No problem. So let's start off by playing a game of Mythbusters. So let's have a look at the following clip.
So, I mean, technically our cells should be called nickel.
Nickel graphite.
Yeah, exactly, nickel graphite, because the primary constituent in the cathode is, or in the cell as a whole, is nickel. And then on the anode side, it's graphite with silicon oxide. So, and then there's a little bit of lithium in there, but it's kind of like it's like the salt on the salad. You know, it's really not the, you know, it's a small percentage of the mass.
So would you agree that lithium is just the salt on the salad and that lithium ion batteries should instead be called nickel graphite batteries?
So he's right. You know, lithium is a salt, and the salad is big. Lithium, if you notice, he's also focused on lithium hydroxide.
Will there be lithium in the form that Tesla needs, which is lithium hydroxide?
And he talks about that interview was given about 2 years ago when lithium was in a bit of a boom, and he was very focused on the Model 3 in that interview as well. He wasn't so much talking about the Semi and the Cybertruck. So he's very focused on high nickel. He's very focused on lithium hydroxide. Anytime you hear nickel, and he talked about it in his most recent conference call, you know, he's talking about hydroxide. Lithium's no longer in the boom that it was 2 years ago in terms of shareholder valuations. And I think there's an element of, a thought process that lithium is abundant, in the earth, but making it into lithium hydroxide is very difficult. And if you fast forward 2 years from when he made those statements, he recently tweeted that lithium is abundant, but the problem with clay and the problem with, salar brines is converting it into high purity lithium hydroxide. So that's the problem, right? Lithium can be made. It will be made, right? Tesla is so far advanced of any other company. I don't think they're going to run out of, lithium, or there's no fundamental shortage of lithium in the world. It's just a matter of financing. When we last spoke, we talked about the market being 300,000 tons. That's going to 2 million. That's hydroxide plus carbonate. But the hydroxide market's only about 55 or 60,000 tons today. That's going to be over 1 million tons, by 2030 or 2028. That's 40%, cumulative average growth. Elon talks all the time about the biggest hurdle is cell production, and how do we make manufacturing of cells faster, more efficient. The same applies to lithium production. That's a huge amount of lithium production, lithium hydroxide that needs to be produced, that they're going to go into his cells. And he did mention in that presentation that, it's abundant, but it just works with a lag. And as we've talked, previously, it takes 2 years to build a battery or a cell plant or an EV plant, but it takes like 5 or 7 years to build a lithium mine. The amount of dollars that have been invested in the lithium space since that video was made 2 years ago has declined significantly as a result of, the decline in lithium price, which is partly because Elon and other auto OEMs believe that it's not that costly to produce it, right? But they haven't focused on it sufficiently to help finance it, with incentive pricing with development companies and also with existing producers. We just had the recent quarterly results from Albemarle and Livent, where they're talking about further slowing of investments and idling of plants, right? Because it's just not profitable for their shareholders to be investing, if they're going to make such low lithium profits. So again, to the point on salt in the salad, Benchmark Minerals, who I think you've referenced before, put together an analysis for an NMC 811 battery, which is similar to Tesla's NCA, and 54% of the battery cost is the cathode. Within the cathode, 46% is nickel, but 22% is lithium. So nickel matters for sure, but 22%, is still expensive, lithium salt.
So in simple terms, a super salty salad. Try it.
It's interesting that Elon shouted out very loudly to nickel miners, right?
Any mining companies out there, please mine more nickel.
To me, that suggests that he doesn't want to get into nickel mining. He wants to spur speculation, and other investments by nickel mines. In the meantime, he's downplaying lithium, which means to me he's more likely to invest there, right? If he says I'm desperate for lithium, then lithium valuations will go up. And if he intends to buy a lithium mine or invest somehow, he wouldn't want to the prices of those companies to be so high. That's just my own speculation.
Not something that I thought of that way. Like, you got to think about what he's saying and also what effect those words are going to have in the market.
And those effects have greatly increased nickel prices. There are some stocks that I've looked at that doubled within a week of his saying that. So it had, to the extent that he sought that effect, it had its intended effect. There is a pervasive thought process like, oh, you don't have to worry about lithium, because it's common. But as I said, making high purity lithium hydroxide is not easy, and the industry is much smaller. Another thing that you should think about is that Albemarle and Livent and other lithium companies desperately need Tesla. Nickel companies don't desperately need Tesla. The nickel market is stainless steel. So the Elon Musk and Tesla get a lot of attention from lithium companies, but not necessarily, nickel companies don't give them the same attention. So maybe this is a way, a cry for help, or, you can make LFP batteries without nickel. You can't make them without lithium. So every chemistry requires lithium, and lithium's important. Nickel's important. There's no question about it. It's not an either or. And graphite's needed as well. But I keep coming back to the lithium hydroxide itself is growing 40% per year. And again, the Austin Terafactory is going to be focused on the Cybertruck and the Semi. He's talking about using LFP for made in China models. That's largely because there's some scarcity of nickel. And as well, it's cheaper cost and it's acceptable, in the Chinese market. But we're outside of China. These high nickel chemistries is where everything is moving. And, another thing that Elon said, when it comes to lithium, Elon, he said that clays like those in Nevada, are hard, but he gets his lithium from Australia, right? He doesn't really get his lithium from Australia. He gets his spodumene from Australia, and he then sends those to China for conversion into hydroxide. That methodology is it's the cheapest way, hard rock to hydroxide. It's the most scalable way. It's secure because it's generally in Western markets, right? Australia, and it's not in emerging market countries, although China obviously is an emerging market. And it's also sustainable. To this concept of sustainability, there have been a couple of hard rock mines that recently attracted debt funding from ESG-focused funds.
Just a quick note, if you're not familiar with ESG funds, the acronym stands for Environmental, Social and Governance, meaning these funds only make investments when their stringent ESG criteria is passed.
So Elon cares about sustainability. He cares about scalability. He cares about cost. So, hard rock to hydroxide is how he's getting most of his lithium, and I think is likely to be where he goes for future lithium. Although he has a proclivity and an affinity for new technologies, as we discussed, last time, I speculated, he might buy some unconventional project, but Volkswagen also and BMW have signed big agreements for lithium hydroxide supply with Ganfeng, the Chinese company, late last year, saying that hard rock to hydroxide, right, is sustainable, and again, it's secure, it's reliable, it's scalable, and the like. So lithium's abundant, but you need to make major investments in hard rock mines and conversion plants. And increasingly, you need to do that outside of China. Otherwise, you're going to be wholly reliant on the China supply chain. That doesn't mean other technologies shouldn't also be attracting investment, and they are. But
speaking of other technologies, I keep hearing that, oh, why invest in lithium? It's only going to be a matter of years before they're going to move on to the next thing. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that is unlikely because of lithium's abundance. If lithium's abundant, why would you switch away from lithium? Why wouldn't you look for ways to use more lithium? And that's what's happening. All the new technology, it's possible that lithium ion battery will be displaced by solid state, but in solid state, you're going to need a lot more lithium. But I don't think that's going to happen for 10 years, at least as I'm talking to, not at scale. And even if it does happen, the transition will take a long time, which means that all of just think about it, the Austin Gigafactory is a lithium ion battery factory, brand new, the Berlin factory, the Shanghai factory. These things are not going to immediately switch for in any time frame that matters to an investor. It's not going to switch from needing lithium. So I would not worry about lithium. I would worry potentially about cobalt. You could also worry about nickel. If he doesn't get enough nickel, right, he may be forced to, use LFP, which has the trade-offs of, much lower range, which is the, critically important in Western markets. So I would largely be dismissive of anybody who worries about, should I invest in lithium, because lithium might, some new battery technology will take over to displace it. As I said, the lithium ion battery is highly likely to be displaced but if you look at all of the things that are seeking to displace it, they also require lithium, and in some cases, even more lithium.
So is lithium the salt on the salad? Yes, if you go by weight, it would be, as lithium is the lightest metal. However, when you look at it through a cost perspective, lithium does make a substantial cost of the battery. So is lithium common? In short, the answer is yes. However, there's a massive difference between lithium that's found in the ground and the specialty chemicals such as lithium hydroxide and lithium carbonate. And the final point, is lithium about to be phased out? I totally agree with Howard here. I don't see it happening anytime soon. Sure, there may be alternatives that work at lab scales, but this technology is not going to phase out lithium anytime soon. So I hope that answers your questions. If you agree, disagree, or have any info that is contrary, please share it in the comments. I love chatting with you guys there. As always, a huge shout out to Drew, Frank, Jonathan, and Mr. Guy, along with all our other Patreons for making these episodes possible. So until next time, I'll see you guys soon.